The alarms were already screaming when Ethan realized there was no way out. Red lights washed over the room, bouncing off steel walls and terrified faces. Someone behind him shouted to shut everything down. Another voice yelled his name like it was a verdict being read out loud. He didn't turn around. His eyes were locked on the glass chamber ahead, where the system pulsed like it was alive. Every warning he'd ever been given echoed in his head at once. Every letter, every threat, every person who said he didn't belong here. Security boots slammed against the floor, somewhere behind him. 10 seconds left. His hands trembled, hovering inches above the final control. If this failed, it wouldn't just be embarrassment. It would be the end of everything. His work, his credibility, maybe even his freedom. People in the observation room leaned forward. Phones were already out. They weren't hoping. They were waiting to watch him break. 5 seconds. Ethan swallowed, heart pounding so hard it hurt. He knew exactly what they expected him to do. Quit, step back, disappear. Instead, he took one breath, tightened his grip, and made his choice. Because if this went wrong, there was no undoing it. And if it went right, nothing would ever be the same again. This all started long before alarms, cameras, or people screaming his name. Ethan lived in a town where ambition quietly went to die. Not because anyone was cruel, but because no one believed anything extraordinary ever came from places like this. People worked, paid bills, aged. That was the cycle. Ethan followed it too, at first. By day, he worked long shifts in a distribution warehouse, stacking shipments under buzzing fluorescent lights. By night, he sat alone in his bedroom, surrounded by notebooks filled with diagrams, crossed out equations, and carefully sketched designs. He wasn't chasing fame. He wasn't chasing money. He was chasing an answer. There was a problem in his field that everyone accepted as unavoidable. Inefficient, wasteful, dangerous. Experts talked around it, optimized it slightly, but never fixed it. Ethan believed it could be fixed. At first, people listened. Friends nodded politely when he explained his ideas. His parents encouraged him gently. The way people encourage hobbies they assume will fade. Even a few former professors responded to his emails with cautious interest. Then time passed. The notebooks multiplied. The results came slowly. Conversations changed. You're still on that? Maybe it's time to move on. Be realistic. Ethan heard it all. He kept going anyway. His routine became rigid. Work, research, sleep, repeat. He missed birthdays, skipped weekends, let relationships fade without meaning to. The project consumed him, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, relentless one. Late at night, doubt crept in. Not loud, not obvious. Just questions that lingered longer than they should. What if they're right? What if this is obsession, not vision? Still, every small breakthrough pulled him back in. And slowly, without him realizing it, walking away stopped feeling possible. The first real sign that things were turning against Ethan wasn't dramatic. It was silence. Emails that once received polite rejections stopped receiving replies at all. Calls went unanswered. Meetings that had been tentatively scheduled quietly vanished from calendars without explanation. At first, Ethan told himself it didn't matter. He had stopped expecting help anyway. Progress had always been slow, lonely, private, but the pressure didn't stop. It compounded. His equipment began failing more often, not because of design flaws, but because it was worn past its limits. He repaired parts that should have been replaced years ago. He rewired components that no longer met safety standards, telling himself it was temporary. Everything was temporary. It had to be. Money became a daily calculation, not months, not weeks, days. He skipped meals without noticing it first. Hunger became background noise. Sleep came in fragments, 2 hours here, 3 there, always interrupted by thoughts of what might go wrong next. At work, mistakes crept in. A mislabeled shipment, a delayed delivery. His supervisor pulled him aside again, this time less patient than before. "You're distracted," the man said. "And distracted people make dangerous mistakes?" Ethan nodded. Promised improvement. He meant it. He just didn't know how to stop. The online ridicule returned with force after his failed demonstration. New clips surfaced, slowed down, edited, exaggerated. Commentators dissected his expressions, his posture, his hesitation. Not just his work, him. Strangers debated his mental health, his intelligence, his worth. You can tell he doesn't know what he's doing. This is what obsession looks like. He should be stopped. Ethan stopped checking entirely after someone posted his apartment address. Fear became physical after that. He changed routines, took different routes home, jumped at unexpected sounds. Every knock made his chest tighten. Every siren outside felt personal. Then the legal pressure escalated. Another letter arrived, firmer this time. Specific, it listed patents, timelines, consequences. Not just warnings, but instructions. Cease development. Destroy prototypes. Provide documentation. Ethan sat at his desk holding the paper until his hands cramped. That night, his sister called. "You don't sound okay," she said. "I am," he lied. She paused. "You don't have to die on this hill." He didn't answer, because the truth terrified him. If he quit now, everything he'd sacrificed, his time, his health, his relationships, would mean nothing. But if he continued, the cost might be even worse. The final notice arrived weeks later. One last demonstration, fully supervised, no delays, no excuses. Pass, and his work would be reviewed at the highest level. Fail, and everything ended. No appeals, no extensions. Ethan stared at the message for a long time before closing his laptop. For the first time, quitting didn't feel like cowardice. It felt like survival. And that was exactly why he didn't do it. The room felt hostile. Bright lights, hard angles. Too many people pretending to stay neutral. Ethan stood alone at the control panel while officials whispered behind glass. Security flanked the exits. Technicians monitored systems they didn't believe in. Someone cleared their throat. "You may proceed," a voice said over the intercom. "But understand this. At the first sign of instability, we shut it down." Ethan nodded. He didn't argue. Power surged through the system. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the displays lit up. Numbers climbed faster than expected, faster than allowed. Murmurs rippled through the room. "That's exceeding the threshold. That reading can't be right." Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. His fingers hovered near the shutdown switch, every instinct screaming to be ready. The system stabilized. Seconds passed. Then more. The alarm softened, recalibrating instead of escalating. A technician leaned closer to his screen, frowning. "It's compensating," he said slowly. Arguments broke out instantly. "That's not possible. There's no margin for error at that level." Ethan stepped forward, voice steady despite everything inside him shaking. "You said it couldn't adapt," he said. "You said it would collapse under load." No one answered. The data kept coming. Clean, precise, relentless. One official slammed a hand on the desk. "This changes the entire model." Security stopped moving. The man who had ordered Ethan to shut it down earlier stared at the screens like he was watching a threat grow. Ethan felt something release inside his chest. Not joy, not relief, but certainty. It worked, not almost, not theoretically, completely. For the first time in years, the room wasn't questioning him. It was reacting to him. The days that followed were surreal. Footage of the demonstration spread globally within hours. Analysts paused frames, ran simulations, rewrote assumptions they'd defended for decades. People who had mocked Ethan publicly now praised his discipline and vision. The shift was dizzying. Invitations flooded in. Panels, interviews, closed-door meetings with people who suddenly spoke carefully around him. Ethan didn't rush. He read every offer slowly, asked questions no one expected, turned down deals that demanded speed over integrity, walked away from people who treated his success like something they deserved access to. The corporation that threatened legal action issued a neutral statement acknowledging unexpected developments. Then they disappeared. His life didn't instantly become perfect. The exhaustion lingered. The paranoia faded slowly. Loud rooms still made him tense. Sudden emails still spiked his heart rate. But things stabilized. He moved to a quieter place, rebuilt his routine, let himself rest without guilt for the first time in years. One evening, his sister visited the new facility where the system now ran, clean, controlled, undeniable. She watched it work in silence. "You really did it," she said finally. Ethan nodded. Not proudly, honestly. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like someone who survived something invisible. Late one night, long after everyone left, Ethan stood alone watching the system operate exactly as he had imagined all those years ago. He thought about every time he was told to quit, every time it almost made sense. And he understood something clearly for the first time. The world doesn't reward persistence. It tests it relentlessly, until only the people who refuse to stop are left standing.